Well, it's been a while since we've done a Jacques Talk. We've been busy, obviously, and it's been a good kind of busy. Alex Milazzo, now a national champion. Zachary's proudest, comes down to join us. Alex, thanks for being with us here today, especially hobbled.
Oh, no problem. Thank y'all for having me.
So the crutches are out of the shot, but Alex, of course, hustling like Pete Rose back in the day from first base to score that run, the ultimate sacrifice for the team, right? You're going to be off your feet or not be able to be out there for a few months?
Yeah, I'd say recovery is going to last somewhere around 2.5 to 3 months, getting everything healed up before I'm back 100%.
Well, it's a celebration time anyway, right? It's too hot outside to be doing anything right now anyway at the moment. But just tell me, since you got back from Omaha, how has your life changed, the feedback from all the people who were proud of you and what this team accomplished?
Yeah, it's been everything I could have dreamed of as a kid, you know. Just all the support from LSU alumni, Tigers fans, all my fans back in Zachary, people I went to high school with and grew up with. It's been just remarkable, the amount of support and the text messages, social media, DMs I've been getting. And it's pretty awesome to see how much people care about LSU baseball and this university, and to be able to bring the national championship back to Baton Rouge is everything I wanted to do as a kid. So it's been pretty special.
Tell me about the things they've done for you and Zachary so far. Your dad was kind of giving me a rundown. It's been a lot happening over there.
Yeah, so as soon as on my flight back, before we got in the flight, some people in Zachary had a fire truck set up with a picture of me on there and a tiger and catcher's gear sitting on the fire truck. And just this morning I had the opportunity to get to speak at church. So it's been awesome, you know, the love and support I've gotten going to high school at Zachary and growing up in Zachary, and everybody there supporting me. It's truly remarkable.
That high school that you went to, Zachary, they're synonymous with winning. Of course, we know what David Brewerton has done in football. The baseball program's always been strong. Chris Carrier with track and field.
Oh, yeah.
He's winning a state championship every year, it seems like.
Basketball, too, man. I think they've won 2 state titles, so sports seem to be rolling in Zachary right now. You
play the catcher position, which kind of is the epitome of toughness, right? You got to squat down for 2 or 3 hours behind home plate with all that gear on, and the ball's bouncing 100 miles an hour, sometimes right into your chest or whatever. Do you feel like you've got the perfect kind of makeup to play that position?
Yeah, you know, I've been catching since I was 9 years old, and it was actually my mom's idea to make me a catcher, and I'm glad she did. It ended up working out, but that was really the only position I was interested in growing up, because I was a football guy, Dad was a football guy, and I grew up on a football field. So I think it's a mix, you know, bringing that football mentality to the baseball field plays a very key factor in that position. And then also, I mean, I enjoy being in every play. It's not, I believe pitcher and catcher are the only positions on the field where you're involved in every pitch. So you really got to stay focused the entire time. And growing up, I used to get a little bored with baseball at the time if I was in the outfield, so they put me at catcher, and I've been there ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. The guys that you caught this year too, right? And these guys, they take on the mantra, we appreciate the fans, but when they get a little chirpy and criticize, the people inside the building are the ones that are the most important, right?
Yeah.
We know what we're made of and what we have to do, right? But throughout the year, you know, Paul Skenes was the headliner, and Floyd would make it to the 4th and 5th inning and sometimes struggle there. But your entire staff in Omaha really elevated to a new level to win this thing.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that. And, you know, there were certainly high expectations on this team going into preseason, I guess early spring before the season started. So, and some, like, I'd even say there were some unfair expectations, I guess you could say, you know, like you're going to win every game. Well, that's not the case in baseball. You're not going to win every game. And, you know, for the most part, I thought our pitching staff did a great job, other than maybe 2 weekends through SEC play. And when you're playing such a tough schedule like the SEC schedule is for us or other teams, there's very, very small margin of error in there. And our pitching staff did a great job throughout the season. So did our offense. I felt like every game we were looking up, we had 10 runs on the board. So,
yeah.
But going into Omaha, everybody knows how important pitching is with such a big park. That's the best of best competition. Where you're playing SEC teams, you're playing the #1 team in the country in Wake Forest. And I felt like our pitching staff really stepped up to the challenge, and they did everything in their ability to allow us to win.
Ben McDonald made a great point to me. He said a month ago, if you would have said LSU was going to win the national championship, beat Florida 2 out of 3, and Paul Skenes wouldn't throw a pitch, nobody would have believed you, right? I want to talk about Skenes with you, but first he said, I don't think it's been forgotten, but Floyd's 17 strikeouts and his pitching performance of a lifetime in that game was incredible. What was it like to see him do that?
Yeah, to be able to catch Floyd in that and share that moment with him, not only was that a big moment for Floyd, that was a huge moment for us because I think, I forgot the stats on it, but most of the time the team that wins the first game in that 3-game set in the finals, they're normally going to take it all. And for Ty to go out there first game and throw 17 strikeouts and only give up, I believe, 2 or 3 runs in that game, that was a huge momentum shift for us. And I couldn't be more proud of him, man. And I'm not going to say I didn't see it coming, but that was Ty Floyd for you.
Yeah.
And I feel like because of a guy like Skenes, a lot of people he can get overshadowed in that. And Ty's a big league pitcher, and I think people saw it that night.
And Alex, your coach said after the fact he could say it, but he was like, the only pathway to victory, we had to win game 1.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
We could not lose game 1 and win the series, just the way that things fell and the positioning of the pitching and all that. So that was of the utmost importance to win that game.
No doubt. Ty with his performance and Cade Beloso with a big home run in that game as well. Winning game 1, I felt like that was a huge momentum shift for us.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to get caught talking about umpiring and all that, but Ty's first start in the World Series, the game you lost, I mean, he's motoring along. The strike zone seemed to be like this. Then in the 6th inning, it went like this. I don't know if he got some strikeouts maybe he shouldn't have early, but it just seemed like that was a bit of a bizarre game because he was rolling along, and then it just took this right turn because of perhaps some things out of his control. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough field to play at for outfielders, catchers, hitters, even the umpires.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize how difficult those shadows are to deal with. It's not just, hey, throw on a pair of sunglasses and, you'll be fine. No, you throw on sunglasses, it makes it worse. So I think it was a little bit of a combination of all of the above, Hitters had a tough time seeing in the box. Catchers had a tough time seeing. I know our left fielders and other teams' left fielders had a tough time seeing.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine trying to call balls and strikes with, 30,000 people screaming at you and trying to deal with those shadows. But yeah, it was a tough environment.
Yeah. Skenes, I feel like I try to keep coming up with creative ways to talk about him. I feel like we burned them all by March, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, I hate to say, I don't want to say it's boring, but it's almost like you kick your feet up and the guy's going to strike out 15, pitch 8 innings, and give up 1 run or 2 or something like that. I mean, what was it like to catch him, and is he just on another level of the position?
Yeah, I've had, throughout my years of playing baseball and being at LSU, I've caught some of the alumni guys that are pitching in the major leagues, Kevin Gausman, Will Harris, guys like that. And as soon as Skenes arrived on campus, I saw him, I was like, he looks like a big leaguer. In the first bullpen I caught early in the fall from him, I was like, and he pitches like a big leaguer. So, and I mean, what more can you say other than that guy's a big leaguer? The way he prepares, his leadership abilities, just his God-given abilities to be able to throw the ball 100 miles per hour on pitch 120, But not only that, he's a true pitcher too. You know, to be able to throw you see a lot of guys throwing 100, 103, and they have no idea where it's going. He's got pinpoint accuracy, and he's throwing 4 pitches for a mix. And in college baseball, that's pretty much impossible to hit.
Yeah, and Coach said, you know, he hit at Air Force. And at one of the press conferences late in the year, Coach said he probably could have had 20 home runs on this team.
Easily. Yeah, I remember in the fall, he would, on the days he wasn't pitching, and he was just recovering, he would DH in the fall games. And, man, I think he probably had 8 or 9 home runs. But obviously what he was doing on the mound was a lot more significant. And that's what the team needed. And I think he wanted to hit, but he was willing to give that up to help the team.
Yeah, I think it was, is it Raising Cane's, do one thing and do it well?
He did it. He did it.
Hey, be our Friday night starter. You're not going to catch, you're not going to hit, and look, God bless the Air Force Academy and everything they do for us, but he was getting a lot more sleep in Baton Rouge.
Oh, no doubt.
Than he was, you know, doing all the amazing things he was doing with the Air Force Academy, and he was more well rested and could focus on this one thing and just dominate in it, it appeared.
No doubt, and I think it's pretty special what he was doing with, you know, the strikeouts and folds of honor. You don't see many college guys thinking about that or doing that in the moment, but that just shows you the character of Paul Skenes.
Yeah, and he does have an amazing character, right? Sometimes we say that about somebody just because they're talented. Oh, he's a great guy, and maybe he's not. But in this case, this team seemed to be loaded with those kind of great guys. I really believe that's what made this group so special and tight-knit, you know. I mean, you had guys like Tommy White, Dylan Cruz, Paul Skenes, and some of the most down-to-earth guys ever and great leaders on this team. And, you know, this was one of the tightest teams I've ever been a part of. And I really believe that's what made this group so special, was how much each guy cared for the guy next to him. Yeah. And then you got a guy like Dylan Cruz, who's got every reason to strut and not talk to anybody, and I'm Dylan Cruz and all that, but his personality is completely the opposite of that as well, right? And that, somebody told me for his career, his on base was 480. So every other time he's getting on base, and when he's getting out, he's probably smoking one in the gap that somebody's running down a lot of times too.
Yeah, I think Baton Rouge is going to miss Dylan Cruz for sure. But knowing him on a personal level, and I lived with him for a summer, and just what a guy. You know, what a guy. You would never know you were talking to Dylan Cruz if you didn't know who he was. And just super quiet, laid back, super humble man, and a great leader on this team, and a great ball player too.
Yeah. And his dad is awesome too, but they're so different, right?
Oh, polar opposites, polar opposites.
One's the life of the party, and the other one makes the party go, I guess.
Yeah, I think George Cruz was captain of the tailgate team, man.
There's no doubt. And Rodney Beloso, co-captain maybe? And,
no doubt. He's up there too. All the dads, man. Even, you know, something about this team that was also so special were the families of every player. And, man, they were just awesome. They made this experience so unbelievable for every player, you know, going out of their way to cook for us or set up tailgates for fans, opposing fans, or whatever us players needed, they were there for us.
And I would imagine they need each other too in a game that is built on failure, in which you're successful 3 out of 10 times. When sometimes when they're not hitting, or you guys go through a stretch where you're not playing well, and you know they understand the game. They know what baseball is.
Yeah, too. I would say, talking to my parents, that was one of the biggest things for them, was having other parents going through the same thing they were going through. You know, you want to see your kids succeed, and especially playing in high-impact games in the College World Series, you know, where, I mean, there's a lot of pressure to get the job done, and for our parents to have other parents going through the same thing, I think that helped them a lot.
So much talent on this team that it's like, are we going to see talent like that again? Skenes, Cruz, and then with Trey Morgan at first base, I don't know if anyone's ever played first base like him at LSU, and certainly, there's so many plays that we were talking about. What's the play we take away? Is it Trey Morgan covering the bunt and flipping it to Alex Milazzo? Is it Josh Pearson's catch? Is it Tommy White's home run in the bottom of the 11th? But that play that he made, and I asked the Florida players about it, and they said for him to aggressively charge the ball and be able to, he didn't have time to.
No, it was like a shuffle pass in football.
Yeah. Just tell me about that and how that all went down for the millionth time.
Yeah, so that's a play we worked on all fall, all early spring, even through late in the season. That's a play we were working on. Coach told us, hey, this play's going to come up in a big game in Omaha, and we're going to have to use this play. And it's going to be in a do-or-die situation, and he wasn't wrong. That was one of the biggest plays, in my opinion, in that game, other than Tommy White's home run. But for Trey to be able to have the ability to read the bunt, charge it at full speed, handle the baseball, not even fully throw it and just shuffle past it to me, that was just unbelievable play, and I couldn't believe it happened.
Yeah, because the Florida guys, what's his name, BT Rappel?
BT Rypel.
Rypel, excuse me. He said, and give that catcher credit too, because he's staring at first base. He can't, maybe in your periphery, you can see the guy charging from third, but you have to be careful not to obstruct and then just get the thing and then blindly swipe to hopefully get it.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me as a catcher was I was just concerned on getting an obstruction call as a catcher because you cannot interfere with the runner or basically block home plate. So first things first, I was concerned about getting out of the way. And then with a catcher's mitt, it's pretty tough to handle a soft throw. So my next area of concern was securing the ball and making sure when I swiped the runner that the ball didn't fall out. And if you watch me on the play, I actually check my glove and make sure the ball's still in there.
Yeah, and I told you the instant replay of ESPN, they caught you a deep breath and exhale.
Oh yeah. That was a lot of weight got lifted off my shoulders right there when none of those runners came across.
And it's the thing where Trey's charging before the ball's pitched, right? I mean, the decision is made before the pitch is thrown. We're charging in.
Oh yeah. The play we called was a basically charge play, and we're selling out to the bunt. And if they would have swung and hit the ball, we were basically selling out to the bunt, and we did. And it hats off to Coach Johnson for being able to read that and get that play in there.
In your post-game celebration on the field, afterwards, I think it was you said, "That's play 5, baby," and then somebody echoed it, "That's play 5, baby," and then you said, "We practice it every day. We practice it every day," you know.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if you have to change the name of play 5. Now we know what play 5 is, but yeah, those are the kind of things, right, where like you talk about greatness is boring, doing the same thing over and over again. It gets boring. It's not glamorous, but then in the moment that you need it, there it is. So
yeah.
Your head coach, now that you mentioned Jay Johnson, might be a good time to talk about him. You remember the first time you met with him, and was there anything right away that struck you about, wow, this is our new head coach, and this guy, he's a computer, he's a baseball guru, junkie, however you want to describe it?
Yeah, so actually the first time me and Coach ever talked, it was at the end of my sophomore season. I was down in Florida playing summer ball, and I actually just got called in the 11th round to go and pursue pro baseball, and I had no idea what I wanted to do at the moment. And I remember calling Coach Johnson trying to make a decision. You know, we've never met in person, and he told me, he says, "You're coming back to school. I'm gonna make you a much better hitter than what you were, and you're gonna get drafted higher, and we're also gonna win a national championship with this group." And that's what he told me, and that's what he did.
Wow.
So yeah.
Because, you know, not to relive bad memories, Alex, but your batting average the first couple of years was pretty low.
Oh yeah. And I had my fair share of struggles, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't change it. You know.
Yeah. Well, that's transfer portal. People do that for different reasons. So it's not just I'm not playing, so I'm leaving. But if you would have said I'm not playing, so I'm leaving and going to somewhere else, and you would have missed out on this, that's something that that'd been tough.
No doubt, obviously. No doubt.
But you were never leaving, obviously.
No. I feel like this university and LSU means a lot to me. So I'm a Tiger for life.
What did he do I mean, in layman's terms, you could probably explain some things that I won't understand. But what did he do with you, with your swing and everything, to increase your contact, putting the ball in play, your batting average going up, all those different things?
Yeah. So when he came in, my contact rate was actually very high. It's just it boiled down to the pitches I was swinging at. So that was the main area of focus. Coach talks about home plate being the line of scrimmage in football. But for us, our line of scrimmage is home plate, balls, and strikes, whether it's on the pitching mound or in the batter's box. If you can win at the line of scrimmage, you can win baseball games. And so the biggest thing for us was swinging at the right pitches and not getting ourselves out. And, it also came with getting yourself in a better position to hit, as Mark Wanaka, Chief, our hitting coach, works with us all the time on. And so we got myself and my body in a better position to hit. And then the biggest thing was our mental preparation and hitting, having a slow heartbeat going to the plate, having confidence at the plate, and just almost being in a state of mind where you're super relaxed and almost nonchalant about things. Because it's very easy when you're playing in front of 15, 30,000 people for that heartbeat to start racing. You're playing out of character. And so once we did that, that's when I saw I've always hit my entire life. And I don't think one bad year defines the type of player you are at the plate or type of player you are in general. And but once we did that, it had me right back on track.
Yeah, and Coach Johnson's father is a famous high school football coach and track coach in California.
Yeah.
And Jay always makes football analogies. Like in his first year, Arkansas had this great staff, and you guys were kind of scrapping along a little bit. And he said it's like an offensive line with 350-pound guys going against 250 guys. We just got pushed off the ball.
Yeah.
Those kind of things he makes all the time, I think.
Oh yeah, and I love his football references. I grew up in a football household, and I grew up on a football field, so I like that style of coaching. You
played it, and along with your batting, I think you may be the best bunter on the team. You know how to lay down a bunt.
Yeah, I mean, when you got guys like Dylan Cruz, Trey Morgan, Tommy White, Kay Belosa, Gavin Dugas behind you, you got to find ways to have runners in scoring position. And Coach told me we're going to use the bunt a lot this year with certain guys like me and Jordan Thompson to be able to have guys in scoring position so those guys can hit them in. And it's something we practice a lot and used a lot.
As I bounce around here down the stretch, you talked about low heartbeat. Josh Pearson, when he makes that catch to save the game and your national championship, perhaps, when you think about it, after the game, he goes, well, there's a lot of plays that won the game, it's not just, and it's like, no, if the ball goes over your head, it's over. That guy's going to score,
I swear Josh Pearson doesn't have a heartbeat. I promise you that. He's so nonchalant about everything, man. And he's an incredible ball player and probably an even better person. And just the way he goes about things, we all just laugh at him. He'll hit a walk-off home run and won't even get a smile out of him.
Alex, I think I Googled lowest heartbeat ever. There was some guy that had 127 beats per minute or something like that.
Oh, he's probably around there. He's got to be around there.
Right around 28 or 29 for Josh Pearson, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then another couple of pitchers I want to mention. So Ackenhausen, right, when you need a performance, he hadn't gone but 3 innings. It was his longest effort in the elimination game against Tennessee, 6 shutout innings that game.
Oh, yeah. Well, Nate, in the fall scrimmages, he was a starting pitcher for us. He was working in that role, and it just turned out before some injuries where coach really needed him at the back end of the bullpen, middle relief, closing out games, and he was all right with that role, and like everybody else on this team had to accept some roles and be team players, and he did a phenomenal job as a middle relief guy, even a closer pitcher. Then when we needed him to step up as probably in one of the biggest games in a do-or-die game, he stepped up and gave us 6 innings, and we all knew that Nate had the ability to do that, and he did it.
And then the next day, Griffin Herring, who I think his longest outing during the year was also 3 innings or something. He almost goes 5, shutout out of the pen. Now you started Jevin Coleman, and then Blake came in, and it was a 2-0 game. Was it Tennessee? Wake Forest. I think.
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest. There are 8 games in whatever days. Wake Forest, and it could have gone off the rails, but the fact that when Herring came in, that was the fork in the road that you guys took.
Yeah, I think for the future for the Tigers, I think Griffin Herring is going to be a huge part of that. And man, he did a phenomenal job shutting down one of the best offenses in the country in Wake Forest.
You said the future. Do you know if you're coming back next year or not?
Yeah, I got a lot of thinking to do, and I'm gonna see what's out there, and might sign, might not. I haven't really made that decision yet.
Yeah, as we stand in here, the draft is
yeah, I mean,
a week away.
Yeah, for me, it's a win-win. I can either come back and be a Tiger, or I can start my professional career.
Yeah. Well, we'd love it for you either way. We'd love to have you back, and I guess Hayden Travinsky, your catching buddy, he's kind of in the same boat, right? He's in his 4th year, and we'll see what happens.
We're kind of in the same boat, me and Hayden, and for both of us, man, it's a win-win either way. You either get to wear that Tigers uniform another year, or you can start your professional career. So I don't think I'm losing either way.
Good deal. A few more things. So the national championship celebration, were you amazed by how many fans? I mean, I guess you're not surprised after what you saw in Omaha. 25,000 people in Omaha. It felt like 24,000 LSU fans. But what a great ceremony the other night.
Man, that was awesome. If that was my last game in a Tigers uniform or my last time in Alex Box Stadium, what a way to go out, man. I think there was 10,000 people there that night celebrating with us. And that just goes to show you the support we have from fans with the baseball program, with this university, and how much the city of Baton Rouge and how much this means to the city of Baton Rouge.
The guys that you played a long time with, Beloso and on down the line there, that your best friends, so to speak, and wow, what a story for Cade, right? I think 226 average and 221, and then the injury last year. I mean, and then you got all these guys coming in, and what kind of impact could Cade Beloso have? How many home runs? 15, 16, something like that with you
something
guys
like
this year?
That, yeah.
Big lefty, and then 2 huge home runs in Omaha, right? Just watching him and your friendship with him.
Yeah, Cade's one of my best friends, and I'll be standing in at his wedding soon, and he'll be standing in mine, and he's one of my best friends. That's a brotherhood that'll last the rest of our lifetime. And, to have a guy like him on our team, a veteran guy, it's been huge for us. Him and Dugas were 2 incredible leaders, and really showed younger guys how this program rolls and the expectations that that's going to carry on through years and years after they're gone. And, not only did Cade come back from his injury, but I blew out my knee too as well the year before, or the year he did his. And being able to have a guy like that in rehab, talking to you and going through the same thing as you, it helped me out a lot.
And speaking of another lefty, I should have brought up Braden Joubert. And when he connects, that thing seems to always leave the park. I mean, he's got a beautiful swing.
Oh, that's one of the prettiest swings I've ever seen in person. Incredible guy. Played a great outfield the entire time we were in Omaha, and had some really big games while we were there.
It was amazing less than 3 months. So I go to Greenville, South Carolina, Dallas with the LSU women's basketball team. South Carolina was supposed to be the juggernaut. They were going to win. LSU wins. And then now you guys are national champs in baseball. A lot of parallels between the two. Saved your best game for last. Superstars captivating the country. Maybe some fans that were lukewarm on women's basketball and college baseball were both very engaged. What did you see, I guess, in the last 3 months and what's been going on at LSU? It's amazing.
Yeah, it's been truly remarkable for this university, just to see all the support that we are getting from the city of Baton Rouge, from our university, from our fans. It's really just unbelievable, to be able to bring back not 1 but 2 national titles in the same year. And I think even track is doing great things over there. And, when you have 2 coaches like Coach Jay Johnson and Coach Kim Mulkey and even Coach Brian Kelly, and they're all at the same university, I think special things are going to happen here.
And in this new era, no one's going to attack the transfer portal harder than Jay Johnson, and the recruiting as well. He's only 46 years old, and it seems like this could go on for a long time with him because he is obsessed with this.
Yeah, I think all the workers at LSU need to get used to building a new intimidator every year because this guy's obsessed with it, man, and loves winning. He loves winning. He loves developing players and helping players reach their full potential.
And he's not I know he emulates Nick Saban. I think he looks up to him a lot. Neither guy are 6'5", but he's not a shouter, though. He's not, from what I heard, he's not one of these guys that will berate you at practice. Now, I guess the truth can still hurt, but
Yeah.
he's kind of like this.
No, Coach has always been pretty even keel, There's certainly a high bar he sets for us, and there's expectations that we need to meet every day, but definitely not a shouter. And, when players have a lot of respect for a guy like him, you don't have to be a yeller to get to motivate your players.
It's way too early. We don't even know what the roster is going to look like next year, including yourself. But we do know that Tommy White, Thatcher Hurd, a lot of guys will be back. Should be good, right?
Yeah, I think the Tigers are here, or the baseball program is going to stay at the top of college baseball for a very long time.
All right, and finally, I talked about everyone else's parents but yours. I saw Jimmy and Shannon. It was like one of the first interviews I shot in Omaha in the 2 weeks we were there, and they were obviously very proud to be there and proud of you. And at the time, we were thinking, the beautiful Hayden Travinski T-shirts were all the buzz, and we thought that he was going to be, I guess, kind of catching. But the way it worked out, you played such a huge role in the World Series.
Yeah, I think this team really had 3 starting catchers on it. I never looked at myself as a backup catcher. Backup catchers don't do what I did in the World Series, and backup catchers don't do what Hayden Travinski did or Brady Neal was doing. This team really was loaded at every position. I believe at every position there was 2 or 3 players that could fill in and do just as good of a job.
Yeah, you certainly did. And it'd be the same in football, right? There's Jaden Daniels, but there's Garrett Nussmeier. There's always.
Yeah, no doubt. When you come to such a talented university that expects to win, and winning is that expectation, the rosters are going to be deep, and there's going to be teams full of talent.
Alex, thank you for coming down.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Congratulations on everything. Hometown hero, and certainly somebody that the younger people should emulate. Stick with it. Keep working hard, and you too may be a national champion one day.
Yes, sir. Go Tigers.